Defendants. What you want to do is you want to identify the right defendants in a case, right? So you want was the person driving, the defendant driving. This is on page 3 of the first section of the materials. Either you can listen or you can watch, or you can do both, whatever you like. So you want to identify the defendants. It's the defendant in the police report, but were they working for someone? Is there an employer out there? Are they did the passenger own the car and has the insurance? Did the mom negligently entrust the car to a 16-year-old kid, and you have a negligent entrustment claim? So part of identifying the defendants is there's a couple reasons. One is you want to identify the appropriate party, but you want to identify the appropriate insurance, so that if the passenger's driving, if the non-owner is driving, he may have insurance, but the owner of the car may have insurance. Or if it's rented from Enterprise, and Enterprise has insurance, they're going to have a policy too. So you want to make sure that you identify all the sources of recovery that you can and put all them on notice. And it's especially true if your damages are going to exceed the limits of liability of the first person. And depending on the policies and how they interrelate, one policy will be primary and one is secondary. Sometimes, so they can stack on top of each other, and you're effectively getting excess insurance. So you want to do that. If you have a case with a truck, a tractor trailer, if the truck company puts the placard on the side of the truck, they're on the hook for the case, and there's a bunch of for the injuries. There's a bunch of cases on that. So if you have a tractor trailer involved accident, you want to identify who the placard is on the side, and that's what they'll always say in the police report, and the federal standards require that. You see those DOT numbers when you drive around. So you want to make sure that you identify that, because they have, common carriers have to have at minimum $1 million in insurance, and that's going to inform you. And even whether or not they're an owner-operator or try to get out of responding to superior liability as an owner-operator, that still puts them on a hook. You want to identify who they're driving for, because you may have, this is one of our cases, you may have, you want to sue the common carrier too, because what did they know when they hired that driver? How did they train him? How did they decide to teach them what to do when a tire blew, which is one of our current cases, or teach them what to do when to check the tread wear on their tire, or that kind of stuff. You always get their hours of service logs and that kind of stuff too, but that's a little bit beyond this basic stuff. What if the defendant's a governmental entity? So if they are a governmental entity, they have immunity, right? Whether it be a municipality or the state. However, they waive their governmental immunity in 3 ways: if they are driving a vehicle, if there's a premises liability or a dangerous condition of land, and if they bought insurance for the issue, for the negligent issue that you're suing them for. So, and that's what we talk about. It's 537.600. So if they're driving a car, you can still sue that police officer who was negligent and negligently injured your client, or the trash truck driver, or whatever other public employee. Public employees have a lot of other immunity in a lot of other situations. So if you're pursuing a municipality and doing that, look, we've cited some cases at the end. We just lost a case in the Court of Appeals, so, making a claim, and so this is an evolving area of the law where whether or not a public employee is liable is a function of whether they're doing ministerial or discretionary duties. So if they're doing a ministerial, just following the rules type of conduct, they are liable. If they're using their discretion, they're not liable. So if you have, and I know it's sometimes, I always try to, is it the wrong way? So, and some of these cases come out of like a state-owned hospital. If it's a doctor doing surgery on someone, you can't sue them, because you can't sue the state. You can sue them individually, but that's employee immunity. That's a separate issue. But because he's using his discretion. However, a nurse following the doctor's orders is not. She's just following the rules, and so she could be liable, and the sovereign could be liable for that, because they're not imbued with the sovereign power, as the cases like to say or suggest. So